Undercover trip to Temmer. Hello again. Thank you for being here with me once more. I hope you are very well today. I am Marie. Welcome to my channel. This information can be seen as science fiction, or as the viewer sees best, and I post it for entertainment purposes only. Still, I take my information very seriously, and for whoever has eyes to see. I am writing this on the morning of October 23, 2024, ship internal time. As I recently described in my Space News number 47, I went to Temmer as part of my routine job and role as the Taygetan Queen. For safety reasons, I didn't go to Temmer in person, and in skin, I only used remote presence technology. However, for the purpose of my job, it is as good as actually being there. As that technology is so advanced, the whole experience, for the user and for the people at the other end, is virtually as good as having traveled there for real. After I had fulfilled my duties as the Queen, I decided to try out an idea some of my friends at CIC suggested, mostly as a breath of fresh air, to help me relax and distress from my work and health problems. The idea was that I should dress in plain Taygetan clothes, just as any other 16-year-old girl would dress there, put on some sunglasses, and then innocently walk around the nicest parts of Toleka city, just for fun, and hopefully no one would recognize me. Right after I exited the remote presence room, here in Starship Sardaclea, I returned to my private room and changed into nice comfortable and normal Taygetan girl clothes, which aren't that different from any regular modern clothes from Earth. I guess this is because there is only so much design you can do with cloth to cover Lyrian bodies. I put on a simple medium-length beige embroidered dress, with some white in it. I fixed my hair with a long silver clip, to have a nice flat ponytail, matching low-heel girly shoes, and only a thin necklace as jewelry, but I did leave a little hint to whom I am, there with the necklace, as I wore a tiny silver crown hanging from it. Dressed as a Taygetan civilian, I met again with my two Shinenim bodyguards, Cassia and Alia, also dressed as civilian girls, and who I instructed should follow me from many meters away, and remain out of sight as much as possible so as not to give away who I am. And the three of us entered the remote presence room once more. The room was already on and ready when we got there, and we opened the door. This has always fascinated me because, on one side of the door, you are in a highly technological passageway inside a starship, and on the other you are in a beautiful and peaceful city in sunlight, 440 light-years away. This is not a full portal, where you truly go through to another place. This is only a computer data portal, where the only thing passing through is information. It is the computers at each end that then synchronize to generate the illusion of you being over there, while the people truly over there are also given the illusion of seeing you among them, and all with extreme realism. We entered the room and we were suddenly in Toleka city. Our start point was right under the long arches in the secondary entrance of the High Council's Great Hall, as they are heavily covered in ivy, and it was less probable that anyone would notice us suddenly appearing out of a luminous door which then disappears. I went through first, while my two bodyguards would follow me everywhere, from a distance, but the idea was that I should forget about them, and behave as if I were completely alone, so that is what I did. I looked to one side and then to the other, deciding in which direction to go first, and as the street in front of the High Council Hall leads to the beachside road, I walked in that direction. I descended the street as the hall is on a little hill, and I felt very strange to feel an incline, as it has been years since I felt one. They are non-existent inside starships, obviously. Then the terrain got flat again and I started to walk one of Toleka city's most famous streets, the one which follows alongside the beach. It is packed with tall palm trees which serve as a wind buffer, but then they stop when the street passes right next to the water some 5 or 6 meters below. I stood there looking at the peaceful turquoise ocean and enjoying the breeze while I watched the seabirds surf the wind above. I looked down at the rocks below and I noticed that some of them were transparent. This is part of what characterizes this coastline, as its rocks are mostly quartz crystal and amethysts. The rocks I was looking at were not perfect like glass, rather they looked like dirty quartz covered with mud, bird droppings, and seaweed. This is when I turned around to see a small group of people approaching me, and I started to get a little nervous, but they simply walked past me as they continued to talk to each other, except for the couple at the back of the group, who looked at me and said a timid, "Hello," which I returned in kind, also with a smile. I looked at the group while they walked away and wondered if the last two had recognized me, or if they were simply being kind. Thinking it was more of the latter, I felt a surge in confidence, and I started walking at a faster pace following the beach, where I passed through several people who didn't even turn around to see me, which I found fascinating. I turned to my left and I saw a wide street that leads into the city and among the big and tall buildings which define much of the city line. The buildings are skyscrapers whose design is inspired by nature, as they look like giant twisting leaves stuck on the ground, and end with a very pointed tip. I understand that the twist in the skyscrapers is to lessen the impact of the wind on them. As I continued to walk in that direction, I started to feel a little intimidated by the sheer size of all the skyscrapers there, and I decided not to look up any more as they were starting to give me something I could describe as reverse vertigo. The base of all the buildings is covered in ivy, which looks as if it were doing its best to reach up and cover the immensity of the construction. As I looked up, again, I could notice that all the buildings there had a distinctive green tint and color, both in the window glass and in the structure of the building itself. They love to paint everything green here, with some beige. As I finally reached downtown, there were already lots of people walking all around me, minding their business, and ignoring me and my tourist attitude. But there is one thing that struck me the most: unlike in any busy city center on Earth, people in Temmer take things with an enviable ease. No one looked stressed, and no one was running as in rush hour. They were all taking their time to go do whatever they did, and with perfect calmness, as if they had time for everything. Even the vehicles in the streets were moving very slowly, and in silence, as they are all fully electric, but not like on Earth, as these take their power directly from the wireless, airborne electric grid of the planet, therefore they never run out of energy, and they have unlimited range. But on the flip side, criticizing them, I looked at them while they passed me in the streets and I noticed a clear lack of design, as they all looked like miniature, ultramodern train cars covered in rounded tinted glass. I noticed something else as well: all the small parts of the vehicles which are not covered in tinted glass are white. They are all white. But besides them being all monochromatic, just dark tinted glass with a white structure, their shapes hardly have any variations, very much unlike Taygetan flying machines and ships, which are boiling with design. Speaking of those, I also noticed that most of the traffic in the central parts of Toleka city is airborne, and gracefully passing in between the gigantic, elongated, upright, twisted leaf-shaped skyscrapers, in silence. That is another thing about Toleka city. I was downtown, at noon, and it was so incredibly silent. Most of the sounds were coming from the people walking by, their voices, their chatter and laughter, then an occasional hum coming from a passing vehicle, and the chirping of seabirds chasing each other above. I walked past busy wide sidewalks and walkways, marveling at all the order I could see. Everything was neat, clean, and full of life, with carefully groomed gardens in front of each one of the buildings, filled with colored flowers of all kinds. I finally came to a large street crossing, with a large circular garden in the middle, and a large fountain at the center, which sprung out a very high, noisy, and nurtured column of water, refreshing the entire area, with a touch of rainbow, in the soft Taygeta sunlight. Then I turned to my right and saw a very large building that was different from the others. It had widely separated, large columns in front, and in between them there were one-piece black windows, and a light yellow dome on top. The building was massive and impressive, even more so as it stood there alone, and at a distance from the skyscrapers. Then I saw that all those black windows in front, and in between the columns were screens in reality. They lit up to suddenly show high-resolution 3D images, and videos of starships orbiting strange far-away planets, all immense. I mean, each screen must have been over 10 stories high. I stood there looking at those 3D videos and photographs being presented in the windows of that building for many minutes, until 3 passerbys, 2 women and a man, suddenly talked to me and said, "Hello, you must be new around here. That building is our space academy." All I could say is, "Oh wow, thanks." And then they continued, "And that is our new queen," while they looked in the direction of the building. "Hey, you resemble her. And a lot, ha ha." I turned my head around fast in alarm, and to my shock, there was my face moving in those gigantic screens. I felt my heart jump and pump hard, in a clear "oh, shit" moment. I could see it was a series of small clips of one of my more or less recent interviews, alternated with images of starships Toleka and Taygeteanos, with Earth in the background. The 3 people turned to me, and the man asked me, "What is the matter? You look a bit jumpy. Can we help you with anything? Are you lost?" I just replied that I was just visiting the city and I was taking in all the wonderful details. Then we said goodbye, and they walked away. I felt my feet were a bit tired, so I walked up to a park bench made of grey stone and I sat on it for a while, enjoying my surroundings. Quite confident that no one had recognized me so far, when a young couple passing by ran up to me. And they said out loud, but it's Queen Marie Swaruu the First. I quickly stood up and didn't know whether to deny I was or simply accept that my cover had finally been busted. So all I timidly said was hello, waving my hand at them. Then they started to ask me how I was, how Earth was, and how was it to live on a starship so far from home and for such a protracted amount of time. They were both nice and friendly, so I started talking to them, but then more and more people started to gather around me. I had to ask them how they knew it was me, and they answered that as remote presence technology was becoming ever more and more popular in Taygeta, they were manufacturing a little device into sunglasses that helped them see whether the person in front of them was there for real, or using the system. Oh, so I was busted, as anyone with those glasses could see that I was not there in the flesh. Rats, I didn't know they had developed those. I stood there inside a group of some 30 people, and they were all very nice. They asked how I was doing because they all knew about my frail health, and they recommended I should eat more as I was very thin. They all concurred that I look very young. They said that they loved the work I was doing, and that I was much respected. They all seemed very excited to see me there walking among them, even though they all knew I was there using remote technology. Then I turned to see a strange vehicle with big wheels not far away, a vehicle I recognized as a Taygetan light military transport. As I turned to see it, it flashed its front lights at me, and its gull wing doors opened, and Cassia and Aelia descended from it, and made hand gestures at me that time was up and that we should go. I said goodbye, and sorry to all the people gathered around me. I sent them kisses, as it looked like they didn't want me to go. We all waved at each other. They were all so loving. I climbed inside the Taygetan APC, and sat down while Cassia and Aelia drove it around, moved through the streets, into a more or less narrow alley between the skyscrapers, and with no one apparently looking, Ayla's hit a couple of switches up by the top of the APC's windshield, and we jumped out of remote presence. I thought I would find myself in the room we use for remote presence, which is situated behind the CIC deck, in all Toleka-class starships, but to my amazement, I was still inside the APC, but the APC itself was inside Starship Sardaklaya's lower hangar, and moving along other parked Taygetan and human-wheeled vehicles. The APC was real, and also in remote presence. All I thought was wow, I didn't expect that either. The special room was no longer necessary as the vehicle itself was equipped with the system. So Aelia, who was driving, finished parking the APC, and we descended from it. My adventure undercover in Temmer was over. Wow, what an experience. I didn't expect it would end that way, and I had so much fun. This will be all for today. As always, thank you for watching my video, and for liking, sharing, and subscribing for more. It helps this channel grow a lot. And I hope to see you here next time. With much love and appreciation, your friend, Marie Swaruu.